Marcus Webb stood in the narrow aisle of the convenience store. His daughter Lily balanced on his hip. The baby was getting heavy, 18 months old now, but he would never put her down if he could help it. Not here. Not on this dirty station floor where who knows what had been tracked in from 100 different worlds. He counted the credits on his chip for the third time. The number did not change. It never did, no matter how many times he hoped it would. 7 credits and 42 cents. The pack of nappies in his other hand cost 10 credits even. Station Kepler 442 was not a place anyone wanted to be stranded. It sat at the edge of Galactic Council space, a rundown trading post where the desperate and the criminal did business in equal measure. The lights flickered constantly. The air recyclers made a grinding sound that suggested they would fail any day now. Everything smelled like old metal and regret. Marcus had not planned to be here. 3 days ago, his ship's engine had made a sound no engine should ever make. He had limped into the station on backup power, knowing before he even docked that the repairs would cost everything he had. He was right. The mechanic had been apologetic but firm. No credits, no repairs, no leaving. You going to buy that or just hold it? The store clerk was a Graxian, his 4 eyes blinking independently in obvious irritation. Yeah, sorry, just checking something. Marcus shifted Lily to his other hip and walked to the payment terminal. His hands shook slightly as he placed the nappies on the scanner. He already knew what would happen. He had done the math a dozen times, but maybe, just maybe, he had miscounted. Maybe there was a miracle hiding somewhere in his account. The terminal beeped. Transaction declined. Insufficient funds. The Graxian made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. Typical human. Always optimistic about nothing. Marcus felt his face go hot. Sorry, I thought I had enough. Let me just... He picked up the nappies, ready to put them back on the shelf. He could make the old ones last another day. Maybe 2. He could wash them in the sink of the tiny room he had rented. It would be fine. Lily would be fine. I'll pay. The voice came from behind him. It was soft but clear, with an accent he could not quite place. Musical, almost. Marcus turned. The woman standing there was tall, taller than him by half a head. Her skin had a faint bluish tint that marked her as Velcran, one of the Empire species. She wore simple traveling clothes, but even Marcus could tell they were expensive. Real fabric, not synth weave. 2 others stood near her, trying to look casual, but watching everything with the intensity of professional guards. No, I couldn't, Marcus started to say. You have a child. She needs these. The woman stepped forward and placed her own credit chip on the scanner. I have a daughter as well, back home. I understand. The Graxian clerk looked between them, shrugged, and processed the payment. The transaction went through without issue. Rich people, his expression said, always doing weird things. The woman picked up the nappies and held them out to Marcus. Up close, he could see her eyes. They were purple, deep, and thoughtful. There was something about her bearing, the way she held herself, that suggested she was used to being obeyed. Thank you, Marcus managed. Really, I'll pay you back. As soon as I get work, I'll... She shook her head. No need, but... She paused, glancing at the items on his hip. What else does she need? We're fine, Marcus said automatically. Pride was a stupid thing when your daughter needed food, but he had it anyway. This was enough. Thank you. The woman looked at Lily, who had been remarkably quiet through all of this. The baby stared back with wide brown eyes, fascinated by this strange tall person. Then, without warning, Lily reached out one small hand and touched the woman's arm. The woman froze. Her eyes went wide. Behind her, the 2 guards tensed visibly. Hands moving toward weapons that Marcus suddenly realized were definitely there under their clothes. She didn't mean... Marcus started to apologize, pulling Lily back. She's just curious. She doesn't know... No. The woman's voice was thick with emotion Marcus did not understand. It's among my people. When a child touches you freely, without fear, it's considered a blessing. She blinked rapidly, and Marcus realized with shock that she might be holding back tears. She turned and walked toward the food section. Marcus stood confused, not sure if he should leave or wait. She returned a moment later with her arms full. Baby food, the good kind with actual nutrition, snacks, a stuffed toy that looked soft and safe. "I insist," she said, already moving to the payment terminal. This time, Marcus did not argue. He was too tired, too hungry, too aware that Lily needed these things more than he needed his pride. The woman paid for everything and helped him carry it out of the store. Outside, in the corridor of the station, she finally introduced herself. "I'm Thera. I'm traveling on a merchant vessel. We need a mechanic. Are you trained?" Marcus blinked. "Yes, I've been working ships for 12 years. But I have Lily. I can't just bring her. There's space." Thera smiled, and it changed her whole face. "I could use someone competent, and honestly, I would like to learn. How you are with your daughter. My own child, I barely see her. Work keeps me away." "What kind of merchant needs to learn about kids?" Marcus asked, suspicious now. This was too convenient, too easy. Thera's smile became sad. "The kind who realizes she's made terrible mistakes and wants to fix them before it's too late." Behind her, the two guards looked at each other. One shook his head very slightly, as if this was not the first time their employer had done something that worried them. Lily chose that moment to laugh, a pure sound of baby joy at nothing in particular. Thera looked at her with such longing that Marcus made his decision. "What kind of merchant ship are you on?" he asked. "The Celestial Tide, docked on Platform 7. Can you be there tomorrow morning?" "We'll be there," Marcus said. He did not know yet that he was speaking to one of the most powerful people in the galaxy. He did not know that this moment would change two civilizations. He only knew that this strange woman had been kind when the universe was not, and that Lily seemed to like her. Sometimes that was enough. Thera watched them walk away down the corridor, the human man with his daughter held close and secure. She thought of her own daughter, raised by nurses and tutors, who barely looked at her during their formal weekly meetings. She thought of how many years she had wasted following traditions that left her heart cold and empty. "Your Majesty," one of her guards whispered urgently. "This is unwise." "Most of the best things are," Empress Jathira replied, and for the first time in years, she felt something like hope. The Celestial Tide was nothing like Marcus expected. He had worked on merchant vessels before, and they were usually functional at best. Cramped corridors, minimal crew quarters, everything designed for maximum cargo space and minimum comfort. This ship was different. The corridors were wide and clean. The walls were made of some material that seemed to glow softly with its own light. The air did not just smell clean, it smelled expensive, like someone had perfumed it. Real plants grew in alcoves along the walls. Real plants on a spaceship where every gram of weight cost fuel. "This is a merchant ship?" Marcus asked Thera as she led him through the main deck. She smiled that mysterious smile again. "I told you I'm in trade. I never said what kind." The engineering bay was 3 times the size of what Marcus was used to. The equipment was top of the line, some of it so new he had only read about it in technical journals. But as he looked closer, he saw the problems. Systems were configured incorrectly. Maintenance had been ignored. Whoever had been working here before knew expensive tools but not good engineering. "Your previous mechanic was not very good," Marcus said carefully. Thera laughed. "My previous chief engineer was very expensive and very educated and absolutely useless. He knew theory but not practice. Can you fix it?" Marcus set Lily down in her carrier on a clean workbench, making sure she was secure. She immediately grabbed a plastic tool he gave her and started chewing on it happily. "Yeah, I can fix it. It'll take time, though." "We have time," Thera said. "Take what you need." Over the next few weeks, Marcus fell into a rhythm. He would work long hours in engineering, always with Lily nearby. He strapped her to his back when he needed both hands free. He set up a small play area in the corner of the engineering bay with toys and soft mats. He talked to her constantly as he worked, explaining what he was doing, even though she could not possibly understand. The crew found this very strange. Most were Velcran, and they watched Marcus with open confusion. One day, a junior officer named Kexalon asked him directly, "Why do you keep the offspring with you? There are nursery facilities on Deck 5, trained staff. It would be more efficient." Marcus was elbow-deep in a power coupling at the time. He did not look up. "She's my daughter. I want her with me." "But she limits your movement. She requires constant attention. She makes noise." Kexalon genuinely seemed puzzled. "Among my people, this would be considered poor planning." "Maybe," Marcus said, finally pulling his arm free and wiping grease on his pants. "But she's all I have, and I'm all she has. We stay together." Kexalon made a humming sound and walked away, still confused. But Marcus noticed that over the following days, various crew members would find excuses to pass by engineering. They would watch Lily play or sleep. Sometimes they would ask questions about human child rearing. It was clear they had never seen anything like it. Thera came by often. She would sit on the workbench, expensive clothes be damned, and watch Marcus work. She asked questions about Lily, about how humans raise children, about why he did things certain ways. At first, Marcus thought she was just making conversation. But as time went on, he realized she was genuinely trying to learn. "Your daughter," Marcus said one day. "How old is she?" Thera's expression became sad. 14 of your years. Her name is Yelsara." "Do you see her much?" "Once a week, for exactly 1 hour. It's the traditional schedule for Imperial—" She stopped abruptly. "For important families in my culture." Marcus stopped working and looked at her. Really looked at her. The expensive clothes that seemed casual but were probably worth more than his old ship. The guards that were always nearby but pretending not to be. The way every crew member addressed her with barely concealed reverence. The name of the ship itself, Celestial Tide, which even he knew was the formal title of the Velcron Imperial flagship. "You're not just a merchant," he said slowly. Thera met his eyes. "No, I'm not." "Who are you, really?" She was quiet for a long moment. Lily chose that moment to start fussing, and Marcus automatically went to her, picking her up and bouncing her gently until she settled against his shoulder with a satisfied sound. "I'm someone who has a daughter she doesn't know," Thera said finally. "Someone who followed all the rules and did everything correctly and ended up with a child who looks at her like a stranger. Someone who saw you in that store and thought, that is what a parent is supposed to be." Before Marcus could respond, the ship's alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed. Somewhere, something exploded with a sound that resonated through the hull. "Combat stations!" someone shouted over the intercom. "We're under attack! Pirates! 3 ships! Closing fast!" Thera was moving instantly, all sadness gone, replaced by cold command. "Get to your post, Marcus. Keep the engines running no matter what." Marcus strapped Lily into her carrier and secured her in the corner of engineering, behind protective panels he had installed for exactly this reason. "Stay here, baby girl. Daddy has to work now." The battle was chaos. Marcus had never been in real combat before. The ship shook with impacts. Lights flickered. Systems started failing, and he raced from console to console, rerouting power, compensating for damage, keeping the Celestial Tide alive. Then a new alarm joined the others. Hull breach. Section 7. That was near the nursery area. That was where he had put Lily when the battle started, thinking she would be safer away from engineering. His hands froze over the console. Section 7 was losing atmosphere. The emergency doors were malfunctioning. If he stayed here, he could keep the shields running, keep the ship fighting. If he left, people might die. But Lily was in Section 7. The choice was not really a choice at all. Marcus ran. He left his post, left the engineering bay, sprinted through corridors that were depressurizing. He heard someone shouting behind him but did not stop. His daughter was scared and alone and in danger, and nothing else mattered. He found her in the nursery, still strapped in her carrier, screaming as the air grew thin. He grabbed her, held her close, and ran back the way he came. His lungs burned. His vision started to blur, but he made it to a sealed section and collapsed through the emergency door just as it closed. The battle ended minutes later. The pirates fled. The celestial tide was damaged but intact. Marcus sat on the floor, holding Lily, checking her over frantically. She was crying but breathing. She was okay. She was alive. "You abandoned your post." He looked up. Thera stood there with her security chief, a massive Velcran named Grextor. The security chief looked angry. Thera's expression was unreadable. "I did," Marcus said. He was too tired to lie. "Court-martial me if you want. I'd do it again." Grextor started to speak, something about regulations and military law. But Thera held up a hand, and he fell silent immediately. She knelt down next to Marcus, ignoring the protests from her guards about proper imperial dignity. She looked at Lily, now calm again, and reaching for her father's face with small hands. "You chose her over everything," Thera said quietly. "Over your duty, over logic, over your own life." "Every time," Marcus said. "I'll choose her every time." Thera's eyes were bright with tears. "I should punish you. By every law and regulation, I should. But I won't. Because you did what I've never had the courage to do. You chose your child first." She stood up and addressed Grextor directly. "No charges. This incident is closed." "But, Your Majesty." "Closed. That's an order." Later, when the ship was repaired and jumping to hyperspace, Thera came to Marcus's quarters. She was not wearing her casual disguise anymore. She wore formal robes, purple and silver, marked with symbols of authority. "I am Empress Jathira of the Velcran Empire," she said formally, "and I would like to hire you for a different position, not just as a mechanic, as a teacher." Marcus, sitting on his bunk with Lily asleep on his chest, raised an eyebrow. "Teach you what?" "How to be a parent," Jathira said simply. "Will you come to my home world? Will you show me how to love my daughter the way you love yours?" Marcus looked down at Lily, then back at the Empress of one of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. "Yeah," he said, "I can do that." Velcros Prime was beautiful in a cold, perfect way. The planet's capital city rose from crystalline towers that caught the light of 3 moons and scattered it across the sky. Everything was precise, ordered, and carefully planned. Marcus found it unsettling. It looked like a place designed by computers for computers, not for anything that actually lived. The Imperial Palace sat at the city's heart, a massive structure of white stone and blue crystal. Marcus had been given quarters in the East Wing, rooms larger than his entire apartment back on Earth had been. Lily loved it immediately because the floors were smooth and perfect for crawling, which she had just started to master. But the palace staff did not know what to make of him. They would stare when he carried Lily through the corridors. They whispered when he sat on the floor to play with her. One elderly servant had actually gasped in horror when Marcus kissed Lily's forehead in public. "It's not appropriate," Jathira's chief advisor, a stern Velcron named Texavara, informed him on the 3rd day. "Public displays of physical affection are considered..." improper, especially with offspring. Hugging my daughter is improper? Marcus asked, keeping his voice calm. Among Velcron, yes. Children are raised in collective nurseries. Parents see them during scheduled appointments. Physical contact is minimal. It's more efficient this way. Marcus looked at the advisor for a long moment. More efficient for who? Texvara did not have an answer for that. The Imperial Nursery was on the palace's 10th floor. It was huge, filled with young Velcron of various ages. The children were quiet, occupied with educational tablets and structured activities. Nurses moved among them with professional detachment, correcting posture, monitoring progress, but never touching unless absolutely necessary. Marcus watched through the window, Lily in his arms as always. "Where are the parents?" he asked Jathira, who stood beside him. "They visit Wednesday afternoons for 1 hour. It's the traditional schedule. Once a week, it's considered sufficient." But Jathira's voice was uncertain now. "Is it not?" Marcus thought about his own childhood, about his mother who had worked 3 jobs but always made time for dinner together, about his father who taught him to fix engines on weekends, about the thousands of small moments that had made him who he was. "No," he said gently, "it's not." Meeting Princess Yelsara was scheduled and formal. She arrived exactly on time, escorted by 2 tutors and a protocol officer. She was 14 but carried herself like someone much older, with perfect posture and a carefully neutral expression. "Mother," she said, bowing precisely, "you requested my presence." Not Mom. Not even a smile. Just formal acknowledgement. Jathira's pain was visible, at least to Marcus. "Yes, I wanted you to meet someone. This is Marcus Webb and his daughter Lily. They're from Earth." Yelsara looked at them with polite disinterest. "A human. I've read about your species. You have interesting but inefficient social structures." "Yelsara," Jathira said, and there was something pleading in her voice. "Perhaps you could spend some time with them. Learn about human customs." "If you command it, Mother, I will comply." The words were correct, but empty of any feeling. They met in a sitting room the next day. Yelsara arrived with her tutors, who settled into corners to observe. Marcus had brought Lily and a collection of toys. He sat on the floor, which made the tutors gasp, and started playing with his daughter. Yelsara watched from a chair, her expression confused. Lily was stacking blocks, and Marcus was helping her, praising each success with enthusiasm. When Lily knocked the tower down accidentally, Marcus just laughed and helped her rebuild it. "Why do you sit on the floor?" Yelsara asked. "There are chairs." "Easier to play with her this way," Marcus said, making a silly face that made Lily giggle. "Play is scheduled for specific educational periods. This seems random." "It is random, that's the point." Marcus looked up at the princess. "You want to try?" Yelsara looked scandalized. "I'm 14. Play is for children. Then just sit with us. Talk to her." After a long hesitation, Yelsara moved from the chair to the floor, though she sat stiffly, as if afraid the ground would judge her. Lily immediately crawled over, curious about this new person. She pulled herself up using Yelsara's leg and offered her a block. The princess took it automatically, then seemed unsure what to do with it. "She's sharing," Marcus explained. "She likes you." "How can you tell?" "She doesn't give her toys to people she doesn't like." Over the following days, something began to change. Yelsara started requesting more time with Marcus and Lily. The tutors were dismissed. The protocol officer stopped attending. It was just the 3 of them, plus Lily, spending time together in ways that had no schedule or educational purpose. Marcus taught Yelsara how to hold a baby properly, how to make silly faces to get smiles, how to read the simple picture books that Lily loved. The princess was clumsy at first, unused to this kind of interaction, but she was also smart and observant, and she learned quickly. Jathira watched these sessions from the doorway sometimes, never entering, just observing. Marcus could see the longing on her face, the regret. Then came the day everything changed. Marcus had been called to a meeting with some Imperial engineers. He left Lily with Yelsara, which he had never done before. But the princess had proven herself capable, and it was only for 20 minutes. When he returned, he heard crying. Not Lily's usual fussing, but real distress. He ran into the room to find Lily sitting on the floor, tears streaming down her face. Yelsara was on her knees in front of the baby, looking panicked. "What happened?" Marcus asked, going to Lily immediately. "I don't know. She was fine, and then she just started crying. I tried everything you showed me, but nothing worked." Yelsara's voice was high with anxiety. Marcus checked Lily quickly. She was not hurt, not sick, just upset about something only she understood. He picked her up, held her close, made soothing sounds. After a moment, Lily's crying faded to sniffles, and she buried her face in his shoulder. "How did you do that?" Yelsara asked. "Practice. Lots of practice." Marcus sat down, still holding Lily. "You did fine. Babies cry sometimes. It's not always fixable." "But I failed. I couldn't help her." "You didn't fail. You cared enough to try. That's what matters." Yelsara was quiet for a long moment. Then, to Marcus's shock, tears started running down her face. Real tears, the first genuine emotion he had seen from her. "I don't remember my mother ever holding me like that," she whispered. "I don't remember anyone holding me. The nurses would pick me up when necessary, but never like she was precious, like she mattered." Marcus shifted Lily to one arm and, without thinking, put the other around Yelsara's shoulders. The princess stiffened, then collapsed against him, crying in earnest now. That was how Jathira found them. She had come to check on the lesson, and instead saw her daughter crying in the arms of a human stranger, showing more emotion than she had displayed in years. "Yelsara?" Jathira's voice was small, uncertain. The princess looked up, tears still streaming. "Why didn't you hold me, Mother? Why didn't you play with me? Why wasn't I worth your time?" Jathira's face crumpled. "You were worth everything. You are worth everything. I didn't know how. I followed the traditions, did what was expected, and by the time I realized something was wrong, you were already growing up, and I didn't know how to fix it." "I needed you," Yelsara said. "I still need you." Marcus gently moved away, giving them space. Jathira knelt next to her daughter, and for the first time in years, probably for the first time since Yelsara was a baby, they embraced. Both were crying now, 14 years of distance and hurt pouring out in that moment. Lily, not understanding but sensing the emotion, reached out and patted Yelsara's arm gently. The princess laughed through her tears and took the baby's small hand. Later, much later, after Yelsara had finally left and Lily was asleep, Jathira came to Marcus's quarters. "Thank you," she said simply. "I didn't do anything. You showed me what I was missing. You showed my daughter that love doesn't have to be scheduled or efficient. You gave us a chance to fix what I broke." She paused. "The court is not happy. They think I'm becoming unstable. They want you removed. Are you going to send me away?" Jathira smiled, and it was fierce. "No, let them be unhappy. For the first time in 14 years, my daughter hugged me. They can be as unhappy as they want." The next day, Jathira announced a new policy. Parents in the imperial palace would be allowed daily contact with their children if they chose. It was optional, but the option now existed. The court was scandalized. The traditionalists were outraged. But in the nurseries and in the homes of common people across Velcros Prime, something stirred. A hope that maybe, just maybe, things could be different. The revolution had begun with a hug and a crying baby. Sometimes that was all it took. The changes started small. A few brave parents in the palace requested extra time with their children, then a few more. Within weeks, the imperial nursery had half its usual occupants because parents were keeping their offspring with them during the day. The nurses, trained for generations in efficient child management, suddenly had less to manage. The imperial court was divided. Some saw the changes as a refreshing break from cold tradition, but many more saw them as dangerous chaos. High Chancellor Vexnor led the opposition, and he was not subtle about his concerns. The Empire has functioned for 10,000 years on proven principles, he said during a council meeting that Marcus was not supposed to know about, but heard through Yelsara anyway. The Empress jeopardizes our entire civilization for the whims of one primitive human. Marcus tried to ignore the politics and focus on what he was good at, being a father and helping others learn to do the same. He started informal gatherings where Velcran parents could come, bring their children, and just exist together. No schedule, no educational objectives, just time. It was awkward at first. The parents did not know how to play. The children were uncertain about this new freedom, but slowly, something beautiful emerged. Laughter, real and unplanned, affection, given freely, bonds forming that were stronger than genetic obligation. Not everyone was happy about it. Marcus started noticing looks from certain courtiers, comments that were just barely polite. His rooms were searched twice, officially for security purposes. Someone started a rumor that human child-rearing practices were actually a form of psychological manipulation designed to make children weak and dependent. "They're afraid," Jathira told him one evening. She had started joining him for dinner, breaking another tradition. Yelsara was there too, helping feed Lily, who thought it was hilarious to throw food at anyone within range. Afraid of what? Teaching people to love their kids? Afraid of change. Velcran society was restructured 10,000 years ago after a plague killed millions of children. The collective nursery system was designed to minimize emotional trauma from child mortality. Parents who were less attached suffered less when children died. Jathira paused, watching her daughter make silly faces at Lily. But the plague has been gone for 8,000 years. We just never changed back. So everyone forgot why the rules existed and just kept following them, Marcus said. Exactly. And now you're showing us what we gave up. Some people don't want to see that. The first real threat came on a Tuesday. Marcus was in the market district with Lily, buying fresh fruit. A group of Velcran surrounded him, their expressions hostile. "Human," their leader said, "you corrupt our ways. You make us weak." Marcus pulled Lily closer. "I'm just shopping." "You make parents abandon duty for sentiment. You destroy what made us strong." The Velcran stepped forward. "Leave our world. Take your primitive ideas with you." "No." The voice came from behind the group. They turned to see Yelsara standing there, flanked by two of Jathira's personal guards. The princess had grown in recent weeks, standing taller, speaking with new confidence. "The human is under imperial protection," Yelsara said coldly. "Touch him, and you answer to me personally." The group dispersed, but Marcus saw their faces. This was not over. That night, Marcus found something in his quarters. A data pad, anonymous, containing research he had been looking for. Historical records from before the plague, describing Velcran family life. They had been affectionate once, warm. Parents and children had bonds similar to humans. The current system was not their natural state. It was trauma response that had calcified into tradition. "This could change everything," he told Jathira, showing her the data. "Or start a war." She replied grimly. She was right. When Marcus presented the research to the Imperial Council, Vexnor exploded. "Lies! Propaganda! The human has forged these documents to undermine our civilization." "The documents are real," Jathira said quietly. I've had them verified by 3 independent historians. We've been living in a system designed for a crisis that ended 8 millennia ago. And what do you propose? That we abandon 10,000 years of stability for this human fantasy of universal love and weakness? Vexnor's voice was acid. Already productivity is dropping. Parents are distracted. Children are becoming emotionally dependent. We're breeding weakness into our species. We're breeding happiness, Yelsara said, standing up. Every eye turned to her. The princess rarely spoke in council. I'm 14 years old, and until 3 months ago, I didn't know what my mother's hug felt like. I was educated, disciplined, perfect. I was also miserable. If that's strength, I don't want it. The council erupted in argument. Some supported the Empress. Others backed Vexnor. The Empire, always so unified, was fracturing. The coup attempt came 2 weeks later. Vexnor and his faction moved at night, when they thought the palace was vulnerable. They had military support, officers who believed the old ways were best. Their plan was simple: remove the Empress, blame Marcus for corrupting her, return to tradition. They did not expect resistance. The old Jathira would have yielded to avoid bloodshed, but the Empress who had learned to hug her daughter was different. The fighting was brief but intense. Marcus, warned by a loyal guard, grabbed Lily and ran for the safe room. He found Yelsara in the corridor looking for her mother. We need to go, Marcus said urgently. Where's Mother? Fighting. Yelsara, come on. But the princess's guards were hesitant. Some were loyal to the Empress, others to the old order. In that moment of confusion, 3 of Vexnor's soldiers appeared, weapons drawn. The princess, their leader said. Take her, the human too. Marcus put Lily down behind him and stepped forward. He was not a warrior. He was a mechanic and a father, but he was also the person who had taught Yelsara that love was worth protecting. No, he said simply. They attacked. Marcus did not remember much of what happened next. He knew he got hit hard. He knew pain, bright and sharp. But he also knew he kept himself between the soldiers and Lily and Yelsara until help arrived. When he woke up in the medical bay, Jathira was sitting beside his bed. Her formal robes were torn. There was a bruise on her face, but she was smiling. You're an idiot, she said fondly. You're not a soldier. You could have died. Lily? Marcus managed, his throat dry. Fine, safe. Yelsara is with her right now. Jathira took his hand. You protected my daughter, again, even though you had no training, no weapons, no logical chance of survival. That's what parents do, Marcus said. We protect our kids, all of them. Vexnor is arrested. His faction is scattered. But Marcus, the Empire is divided. Half my people want these changes. Half want the old ways. I've started a civil war. Marcus tried to sit up, winced. What will you do? Jathira looked out the window at her planet, her empire, everything she had ruled with cold efficiency for 15 years. I'm going to fight for it, for the right of parents to know their children, for the chance at real families instead of genetic arrangements, for all of it. She looked back at him. And I need to know if you'll stay. This will get harder before it gets better. Where else would I go? Marcus said. You paid for Lily's nappies when I had nothing. Seems wrong to leave now. The Empress of the Velcran Empire laughed, tears streaming down her face. Over nappies. I changed the fate of 2 civilizations over nappies and 1 stubborn human who refused to give up his daughter. Technically, you paid for baby food too, Marcus said, and despite everything, despite the pain and the war and the uncertainty, they both laughed. Outside, the Empire burned and rebuilt itself simultaneously. In nurseries across 1,000 worlds, parents were arriving unscheduled, asking to see their children. The old order was crumbling. The new one was being born in pain and chaos and hope. And in a medical bay on Velcros Prime, A human single father held an empress's hand and knew that sometimes the most revolutionary act was simply choosing to love openly. The hardest part of the war was just beginning, but they would face it together. 1 year later, Marcus stood in a garden on Velcros Prime and watched his daughter chase butterflies. Real butterflies, engineered to survive in the controlled environment, their wings shimmering purple and gold. Lily was 3 now, running and laughing, speaking in sentences that mixed human words with Velcran clicks. The Civil War had lasted 4 months. It ended not with a final battle, but with exhaustion and realization. Both sides had seen their children growing up in the conflict, and slowly, everyone began to ask if they were fighting to protect their offspring or to control them. The compromise was simple: choice. Parents could raise children traditionally or personally. No judgment either way. Let each family decide for themselves. It sounded simple. It had been anything but. "She's fast," a voice said beside him. Yelsara stood there, taller now at 15, wearing training armor. She was learning to be empress, but on her own terms, with her mother teaching her not just protocol, but wisdom. "Takes after her dad," Marcus said, then laughed. "Who am I kidding? I was never this energetic." "How's the program going?" Marcus smiled. The Human Velcran Cultural Exchange Program had been his idea, but it had grown beyond anything he imagined. Hundreds of humans now lived on Velcran worlds, teaching not just parenting but art, music, the messy emotional skills that most species had optimized away. Meanwhile, Velcran scholars studied human families, trying to understand how such chaos could produce such strong bonds. "Good. We've got 50 new families enrolled this month. Some are human, some Velcran, some mixed. Everyone's learning from everyone else." "The Galactic Council is interested," Yelsara said. 3 other species have requested similar programs. They're calling it the Velcran Reformation. Mother is very proud, though she'll never admit it publicly. As if summoned, Jathira appeared, walking through the garden with the grace that came from years of imperial bearing. But she was smiling now, something she did more often. She carried a data pad, always working, but she stopped to ruffle Lily's hair as the child ran past. "The Terran ambassador sends regards," Jathira said, joining them. "He wants to establish a permanent embassy here. Says Earth is very interested in Velcran technology, and we're interested in human social sciences. It's a good trade." "Everything's about trade with you," Marcus teased. "I'm a merchant at heart," Jathira replied with a grin. "I never lied about that." They watched Lily play for a while in comfortable silence. The garden was full of other families now, Velcran and human children playing together while parents actually watched and participated. It had been a scandal at first. Now it was just normal. "I've been thinking," Jathira said carefully, "in 2 years, Yelsara will be ready to take more responsibility. I want to step back, not completely, but more. Let her lead while I'm still here to advise." "You're thinking about retiring?" Marcus asked, surprised. "Not retiring. Living. I've ruled for 16 years. I've missed 16 years. I want some of them back." She looked at him sideways. "I've been studying human customs. There's one I find particularly interesting." "Which one?" "Dating." Marcus blinked. Yelsara made a choking sound that might have been laughter. "You want to go on a date?" Marcus asked carefully. "I want to spend time with someone I care about without it being a formal imperial function or a cultural exchange or anything official. Just 2 people, sharing a meal, talking." Jathira's confidence wavered slightly. "Unless that's too strange? We're from different species, different worlds." "I think it sounds nice," Marcus interrupted. "Really nice." Yelsara cleared her throat loudly. "I'm going to go play with Lily now and be anywhere else, Mother, please try not to be too awkward. Marcus, good luck. She left quickly, but Marcus saw her smiling. That evening, Marcus had an invitation to a wedding. The first Velcran marriage in recorded history performed purely for love, with no genetic calculations or social advantage. The couple had specifically asked him to attend, saying his example had given them courage. The ceremony was strange and beautiful, mixing Velcran tradition with new human-inspired elements. The couple exchanged vows about choosing each other, about building a life together not because it was optimal, but because they wanted to. When they kissed, another human custom that had been scandalous at first, half the audience gasped and the other half cheered. At the reception, Marcus met dozens of people who wanted to thank him. Parents who knew their children now, children who felt loved, couples who had discovered that arranged marriages could become real partnerships if they tried. Everyone had a story about how things were better now, different now, more alive now. Too much attention? Jathira appeared beside him, elegant in formal robes. A bit. I just bought nappies. Everyone else did the hard work. You bought nappies with your last credits for a child you refused to abandon. You chose love over logic. Don't diminish that. She offered her arm formally. Walk with me. They left the reception and wandered the palace gardens under 3 moons. Lily was with Yell Sarah, probably being taught something inappropriate but fun. Marcus felt oddly nervous. I never thanked you properly, Marcus said. That day in the store. You didn't just pay for nappies. You gave me hope when I had none. You gave me something more valuable. You reminded me why I had a daughter in the first place. Not for duty or dynasty, but because children are miracles and being a parent is a privilege. Jathira stopped walking. The court thinks I'm foolish. An empress. Interested in a human mechanic with a baby. It's scandalous. Is it? Completely. She smiled. I don't care anymore. I've learned from you that the best things in life are usually a bit scandalous. They talked for hours, about their pasts, their hopes, their fears, about how strange it was that a chance meeting at a convenience store had changed so much, about whether love could really exist between such different people from such different worlds. My people have a saying, Jathira said as the moon set. Thakir vel son kra. It means the strongest bonds are chosen, not born. I never understood it before. Our marriages were arranged. Our children were raised by others. Everything was biological efficiency. But you choose Lily every day. You chose to help me. You chose to stay during the war. That's real strength. What are you saying? Marcus asked. I'm saying I'd like to choose you, if you'll have me. An empress with too much responsibility and not enough time, who's still learning how to be a proper mother, who comes with an empire full of problems. Marcus kissed her. It was probably improper. It definitely broke about 17 protocols. But Jathira kissed him back, and the moons rose again, and the universe continued turning. Months later, Marcus found himself at Station Kepler 442 again. He was there officially as part of the cultural exchange program, but he had a personal reason too. The same convenience store was still there, still dingy, still smelling like old metal. The same Graxian clerk was behind the counter, though his eyes widened when he recognized Marcus. You're that human, the one with the Empress. Just Marcus, he said. I'm looking for someone. He found them in the corridor outside. A young Velcran, barely an adult, holding a baby and looking at a price display with obvious despair. Marcus recognized that look. He had worn it himself once. Excuse me, Marcus said gently. Do you need help? The Velcron looked up, tears in their eyes. I can't afford the formula. I lost my job, and the baby needs to eat, and I don't know what to do. Marcus smiled. He took the formula from their hands added several other supplies to it, and walked to the payment terminal. The Graxian clerk watched with interest as Marcus paid for everything. "Why?" the Velcran asked, confused. "You don't know me." "Someone once did the same for me," Marcus said, handing them the supplies. "When I had nothing, someone paid for what my daughter needed. They said they had a daughter too, and they understood. So I'm paying it forward." The Velcron started crying in earnest now. "I'll pay you back. I promise." "No need. Just do the same for someone else someday. That's payment enough." Later, back on the celestial tide heading home, Marcus told Jathira the story. She listened with that soft smile that was becoming more common. "You've started a tradition," she said. "There are reports from across Velcran space. People helping strangers, especially parents with children. They call it the Web Protocol. I've heard humans have started doing it too, inspired by what happened here. That's silly. It's just basic kindness." "Exactly. Basic human kindness that we forgot was important." She took his hand. "You know what I've realized? That day in the store, I didn't save you. You saved me. You saved my daughter. You saved my whole empire by reminding us that we're not just efficient machines. We're living beings who need love and connection." "I just bought nappies," Marcus protested. "You bought nappies, and I paid. And from that simple exchange, everything changed." Jathira laughed. "The historians are going to have trouble with this one. The Great Reformation started over nappies." "And baby food," Marcus reminded her. "You also bought baby food." "Of course. Can't forget the baby food." They sat together, watching the stars streak past as the ship jumped to hyperspace, heading home to a world that was still changing, still learning, still growing. Lily was asleep in Marcus's arms. Yelsara was studying in her quarters, preparing to lead an empire built on both efficiency and heart. And somewhere, on a dozen different worlds, parents were holding their children close and choosing love over tradition, because one stubborn human had refused to abandon his daughter, and one empress had been brave enough to say, "I'll pay." Sometimes the greatest revolutions started with the smallest gestures. Sometimes all it took to change the universe was kindness at exactly the right moment. And sometimes, just sometimes, the last coin spent on what you loved most turned out to be the best investment anyone ever made.